What up, everybody? What up, everybody? Let me get to the spot. Hey, what is going on, everybody? This is Plan Your Greatness, and I am your gracious host, Carlton Hamilton, and let's get started today. Today is, as you can see, this is Financial Friday. Yes, it is. And we are going to talk about whether is school or is it, the question, I guess it's school or not, or is college for everyone? And we're going to break down some numbers when we come back.
Stripped down to my skin and my bones. I love huskies, but I feel like a wolf. In a pack, but I feel all alone. I'm scatterbrained, man. Better off for the clone. And take highs upon me with race eyes.
All right, we are back. This is Financial Fridays on the Plan Your Greatness channel. And let's get right into it. All right, I used to be an academic advisor. And so I was working with students and I was having some really, really good conversations. And it came down to really looking at was school or was college was it really the best decision for all of us? And I'm not here to say whether it is or not. I'm just going to present some information and I want you to make the decision on that. All right, so what is school for? Why do people go from high school to college? And what we're really looking at is it in our best interest to try to cram school in that 4 or 5 year window right after high school? And how does it impact us? Okay, that's what we're really looking at. Again, I'm gonna ask this question. Why do you go to school? Well, from my experience as an academic advisor, it's for 2 reasons. Well, actually one. One reason, you're trying to get out of a situation. And usually you've grown up in a situation where either your parents may not have had the best, and so you feel school is going to give you an advantage, or you actually come from a nice environment and you're trying to make sure that this educational opportunity is going to get you into the same position so you can duplicate what your parents have done for you. And what I call that, I say you're either trying to skill your way out or skill your way up, or you're trying to educate yourself out or educate yourself up. All right. And so when you do that, what you're really trying to say you want to do is you want to save and you want to invest. You want to save some money so you can either put it into something else, or you're trying to save the money so you can invest it into something else. Because money is relative. I mean, as far as most people look at, I got a whole bunch of money in the bank. It does not do anything sitting in the bank. Money is only as good as what you do with it. So most people got it mixed up. They think making money makes them happy, but they're not going to be happy or feeling better about things until they actually take that money and activate it and do something with it. All right. Now, the other thing to think about is, as an academic advisor or former academic advisor, I believe there are 6 areas where these are the areas that if you're going to go to school or you're going to go into these 6 areas, you have to go to school. There's no getting around it. Now, I mentioned this during a conversation with someone else, and they told me that there's a couple of loopholes of going around it. But when I mention these 6, you're gonna pretty much know that there really isn't a way to go around it. Some of you may even chime in the comment section and say, hey, I know this or that. But for the most part, if you're going to have these 6 areas that you're going into as far as professional disciplines, you have to go to school, which is becoming a teacher, going in the medical field. But there's a few areas in the medical field. So medical field. You're going to be an architect. You're going to be an engineer, a lawyer, or an accountant. All those require you to have some sort of medical professional certification or license to practice what that is. This is why that when I was an academic advisor, I looked at how students were trying to cram those 4 years in and how much it was stressing out the students, which is why I came up with a 10-year plan of starting school and going off to school. And we'll get back to, and I'll explain that in more detail in a little bit, but I wanted to share something with you in that regard. Now, think about this. If you're in school on an academic or an athletic scholarship, you now are you are now privileged to some perks. There's a lot of things that you get. I mean, a full academic scholarship or a full athletic scholarship. Now, because I was in school under an athletic scholarship, I know how demanding that is. It's actually really like working a part-time job and going to school at the same time. So we won't focus so much on the athlete. We're going to focus on the person who has a full academic scholarship, meal plan, housing, everything is taken care of, and all this person needs to do is go to school. Now, one of the people that I follow online is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and what he said about how he approached school was very powerful. He said, I looked at school as a full-time job. I was spending 8 to 10 hours per day on my studies. And I'm like, that just sounds very common sense. If you're going to school, you're trying to get the best grades, and you're on an academic scholarship, why would you not put in that work? Because as soon as you graduate from college, you're now going to be given a boss 8 to 10 hours of your day. So why not get into that mode of really studying and just, not necessarily saying you're studying to be a straight A student, but you're really putting in the work to be a good student. All right. So now think about that. Now, the other students that are not there on a full athletic scholarship or full academic scholarship, which is the majority of the student population, parents are either coming out of their pocket. Parents have either had a 529 college fund. You can go look what that is. Or the parents have saved some type of annuity, something. There's some sort of insurance policy. There's a lot of financial tools that can help pay for college. Okay, you see what I'm saying? So these students are the majority of the population where everything is not necessarily going to be paid for. So they're going to have to take out some loans, and they're going to be looking at some grants. And when you do that, you actually have to walk into the space of filling out the financial aid. So now here you are filling out financial aid because your parents are in a situation where they can afford a little bit for school, but not the whole shebang. So now you need some assistance. You need some grants. You need some loans. You fill out the financial aid. Now you're trying to juggle. You got some grants, loan, financial aid. You got to work a little part-time. So that's stressful. And it just does not allow you to really enjoy the experience like most other students. But here's the kicker in that. Once you are in that space, you are now then taking out loans. Now this is what affects you later on. And we'll talk about that as we go through the 10-year plan. So it was so stressful to a lot of students. And as an academic advisor, I had a really nice office. I had a couch in there, and I really wanted it to be an experience for the students. You come in there, you relax, you ask me questions. The athletes would come in there. Some of the little cute girls would come up in there. And so this is what would happen. At some point in time, one of those athletes or one of those students would come and sit down with me and say, well, Mr. C, school just not working out for me. My mom this, my dad, I'm pregnant, or there's been a death in the family. There's been something that alters their thinking as far as where their priorities. So what I try to do is I try to sit down with them and I say, okay, well, let's revisit why you decided to go to school in the first place. What are your goals? And I was at a community college, so I wasn't at the university. I had gotten my degree and then I moved into a community college. So I wasn't having these conversations with these guys, with these girls, with these thoughts of going on to the Olympics or going on to the NBA or NFL or anything like that. They were just real life issues. So after we would try to revisit, why they went to school, and if I couldn't convince them, then I would say, okay, look, evidently what's on your mind is something very, very heavy that you need to address this. So what I want you to do is go over to the registrar's office and then make sure before you leave campus, come back and see me. Well, the ones that, wanted to continue the conversation or just be respectful and come back to my office, when they sat down, first thing I did was I would revisit it. I'd say, are you sure? Do you really? Yeah, I'm really sure. Then I would look over in my drawer. It'd always be on the right side. I would open up the drawer and I would pull out a crispy $100 bill. And I would sit it on my desk. And I would say, that $100 bill is yours. Whenever you decide to come back to school, I said, I don't care what class you take, just as long as you take something to get yourself back into the program. And they look at me, Dad, okay, good. Thanks, Mr. C. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I said, now, how many students do you think in my years of being an academic advisor ever came back and got that $100 bill? And of course, they'd say, I don't know, maybe 10, whatever, 10%, or 10 people or 20 people, whatever. And I would go, 0. Absolute 0. Those are my stats. 0 came back. Now, in the larger picture of how many students disengage from school or disenroll or whatever you want to call it, completely from classes, that number is extremely low. It becomes more difficult when you do that. And that's what I was trying to explain to them, is that I was trying to revisit their goals, because when you break away from school and you completely break away from school, you're going to mentally get yourself engaged in other things, and school is going to become less and less a priority, which is why most students don't come back. All right, so now you get the understanding of that. Now let's break down, because what I wanted to share with you is that, again, school or not, it's in that 4-year window, because you're so stressed. If you had maybe another plan, you may be less likely to drop. All right, so now let's look at the what I call the 10-year plan, and this is for a local student, somebody who went to high school in the area around the university. Like in Arizona State, there's a bunch of cities in the Phoenix metropolitan area where a kid could go locally to the university. There's 3 different campuses, actually 4 different branches of the campus outside of the main campus in Tempe. So a student has a lot of options if they're local. All right, so a bachelor's degree is 120 credits. All right. So now you think of, if you break that up over 10 years, that would be 12 credits per year. That would be equivalent to you taking a class in the fall, a class in the spring, 1 first summer session, 1 second summer session. There's your 12 credits, 1 year. You do that for 10 years, there's your degree. How did I come up with the 10 years? Kind of a round number, but also the statistics say, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics say, that the average person in America does not have a college degree. So if you take those numbers and condense them down to the age of 28, the average 28-year-old does not have a college degree. So by you getting the degree at that particular time, you're ahead of the game. Now, here's what you can also do. That's on a 10-year window, and that's 1 class every semester. So let's say you decide every other year to take 1 additional class. That would mean 1 year 12, 1 year 15. Well, if you do that math over the course of the time frame, you'll actually reduce your 10 years down to 9. So let's say you have another wild hair up your butt, and you want to take the full 15 credits the whole year. So that would be 2 extra classes, as opposed to, not 2 extra classes, but 1 extra class every year. You would actually reduce your degree down to 8 years. See how that's not even very stressful. And you're not going to be looking for huge loans or grants or anything like that. A lot of that you would be able to work part-time and then just pay for an additional class. If you needed to try to qualify, you could probably qualify for some grants. There's some programs out there, and get that paid for. Now, and if you did that, each time that you add an additional class, you're going to reduce your time to completion by probably a semester or maybe a year. So you're going to end up getting down to roughly right around in that 6-year range at that pace where you're still able to go to school. Okay, you follow me on that? Now, here's the big kicker out of all of that. When you graduate from college, what is every employer asking from you? They may want a degree, but they would really like some experience. So what you're able to do over that 10-year period is get life experience. Now, if you're in some high-end degree program, which a lot of these high-end engineering degree programs, you can't just stretch it out like that. You have to kind of condense it. But if you're looking to get yourself a degree in something and then go use that to go leverage yourself into another job, that's fine. Now, what's happening is you've actually stretched that out. You've been able to get some experience. But here's the main thing that happens. You are going to graduate from college with either no debt or very little debt. And that 3 things happen from that. 1, you have no debt. 2, you have experience. And 3, you probably have a decent FICO score. Because you may have gotten yourself a credit card and hopefully you haven't jacked it all up, but you don't have that 40, 50, 60, 70, sometimes over $100,000 in student loan debt that is just hanging there. And as soon as you get out of college, ding, it hits your credit score. And so now you want to get in the game. You're like, man, I want to get a house or a townhouse, a condo, and they run your credit and they go, woo, dude, you got about $90,000 worth of student loan debt. And everybody knows that student loan debt does not go into bankruptcy. Now, people will chime in the comment section and they'll say, well, there's some ways to have it hidden or whatever. As a general rule, that college student loan debt ain't going anywhere. Now, there may be some people out there very slick as far as making it be hidden while you're going through maybe the home loan process, but for the most part, it's always going to be there. So now what you have done is you've eliminated that. So now that savings that instead of putting it away in savings, you're paying on a student loan debt, you don't have to do that. So now that money can just go into either savings or go in some sort of investing. And now you've got a nice little FICO score, and now you're moving ahead, because buying a home outside of opening a business is the best chip in the game of life that you can get. Now think about that. You've stretched it out. You've got experience. You've got no debt. You're able to save. You're able to enter into the home game. You're able to invest. You're able to maybe even add an insurance policy at that. You've got a good FICO score. And if you take that approach, absolutely, you are on the road to planning your greatness. All right? So make sure that you hit the like button, hit the share button, and more specifically, like share it with somebody that you believe can benefit from this information. Again, this is just for strictly entertainment purposes. I am not some financial advisor or anything on anybody, because later on I'll be talking about finances and stuff like that. But I'm not giving this advice. I'm just going to be sharing it as it's along with my journey. But again, thank you guys for joining, and I will leave you with this. I'll say this again: plan your greatness. You hear that? That's my boy taking us home. Plan your greatness. I say this every week. You know why? Because no one else will. I'll see you all.
A young boy once was all alone. No one knew he was home.